Hi.
Hi.
Hi. All right, you are.
Hi, Rabbi. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for taking my call. I'm very nervous.
Okay. Don't be nervous
But
because you're just speaking on a live show on YouTube that strangers are listening to and will be recorded and listened to by more strangers. So it's no big deal. What's up?
Okay. A little bit complex, I think, but
okay.
So here's my scenario, and then I have two questions.
Okay.
If you'll indulge me.
Okay.
Okay. So I was in a long-term relationship with my partner for many years. We co-parented his two children, young children.
His children, not yours.
Marriage. Correct.
Okay.
So I was their step-parent for a number of years. I told him when we met that I wanted, my own children as well. And as we became more and more, of a couple, I brought it up. And in the early years, he was a little bit, unsure. And then I pushed and I said, well, continue. And subsequently, we aligned and we were trying. We went to couples counseling, what have you. Anyway, I'm in my 40s, and so we were not successful.
And you were never formally married. Is that what I'm gathering correctly? Okay.
Yes, correct. That's important. Mm-hmm. Correct. We were not married. It took him a minute to get a divorce, but nonetheless, yes, we were not married. Mm-hmm. And about 18 months
he had been
ago,
married, and that's how he has the two children from that marriage. And you weren't married. You were never married.
Correct.
Okay, fine. And you were together.
I've never been married.
You've never been married.
And I don't have children. And
you don't have children. He has the two children. You were co-parenting and being a stepmother. It sounds like to me, there's different types of stepmothers, but it sounds like you were kind of stepping up, no pun intended, to almost a full parental role. Is that I'm asking?
Yes, I was very involved in their lives. They're wonderful children. I love them very much, and vice versa. In the summer of 2023, I'm in my 40s, and so I let him know, hey, it's not working. And I'm going to go to
It's not working means
clinic.
My biological clock is ticking. Yeah, fertility clinic. Okay, got it. Okay, because he says,
and we're not.
He says, I've got two kids
naturally.
already. I don't need to have more kids. And you're like, but I want to have kids. And he's like, yeah, but that's not so urgent. And you're like, yeah, it is urgent. Yeah. What?
Long story made short.
Okay. Is this accurate? Am I understanding?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
fine. So you said I'm doing fertility stuff, and he's pretending it's not happening because he doesn't want to be involved in it. And you're like, but I'm really doing this. I have an appointment. You can come with, And he's like, and then finally it happened. He's like, oh, you did it? And you're like, I told you 100 times I'm doing it.
I went ahead.
But
I did it without him.
You're being quiet. You're being silent. When I'm making stuff up, I need to know whether I'm right or not.
No.
So if I'm making stuff, it was correct. Okay, no, when I'm doing my cold reading, I just need to.
You're wrong.
You'll correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, fine. So far, everything I said was pretty accurate. Thank you. All right.
Yes. I was very. Now I can laugh, but I was tremendously hurt and crushed, and I certainly thought that he would come around. We were still living together as a family.
The kids are bonded to you.
Exactly. Yes, very. I'm bonded to them, vice versa. Yeah. I went ahead. I did IVF on my own. I was, Baruch Hashem, very blessed with a daughter.
By the way, I hope this is not inappropriate or insensitive, but can I just stop you for 1 second?
Yes.
Okay. It's not biologically possible for you to do IVF on your own.
Yes, that's correct. I did it without him. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I did it in the absence of him as the father.
Right. And from your perspective, you gave him ample warning that that's what was happening.
Oh, he injected me.
Okay.
Like he was doing the IVF and yes, he had a front row seat, crying, tantrums, and all that nonsense. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hold on a second. He was helping you with your treatments, but he was also crying about it?
Yes, and probably hoping that I wouldn't succeed, and I was hoping that I would, and I did.
And you did succeed?
I sure did.
Okay.
So last year, I by the grace of God, first try, conceived, and when I was 3 months pregnant, I moved out of our house. He stayed with the children, and I moved. It was a tough year. It took me a few months to, regain myself and find joy in my pregnancy and, reacclimate myself to, I don't know, some sort of single life, I guess. He spiraled into a very deep depression. His life fell apart and mine fell together, thankfully. I didn't talk to him for a while. I let the kids, and I didn't infringe on them, but when they called, I would chat with them. They don't know. They're quite young, and he asked for them not to know, and I respected his decision as a parent. And that meant that at some point I had to, cut off communication with them and also with him. So here's where I have two questions, and they're very different from each other.
Okay.
All right.
You moved out at 3 months pregnant. How long ago was that?
Mm-hmm. I moved out in May of 2024, and my daughter was born in November.
Okay. So now you have a little baby, a few months old.
Yes.
Okay. And you haven't really been around your, I'll call him ex-significant other and these two children?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
I saw him a little bit a few times, but not recently at all. And now I truthfully, I had to block him.
Okay.
I'll get there.
Okay.
There was when two people separate and they live together, there's a financial settlement that generally takes place. Yeah. And he didn't want to participate in that. And I had to file a suit, which was awful. Mm-hmm. And when that happened...
What happened? You bought a house together or something? Because you were never married. So what was the financial linking?
No, he bought a house. We lived in there together. We had a cohabitation agreement.
Mm-hmm.
There was repairs and house and furnishings and all the things that, mm-hmm. took place. And where I live, we are considered common law.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Meaning you were cohabiting long enough where the state law considers you to have effectively been married. Correct.
Yes, it was a number of years. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, there's a financial settlement, and the asset is the house.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I didn't ask for the house. Anyways, I asked for a small financial disclosure, if you will.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to agree. And then we weren't talking. And then he called me very upset and, in the middle of the night, spinning. There was a lot of codependency on my end that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And, when I'm pregnant and I'm telling him you should call someone that's not me. And he said, upset and spiraling and,
You're saying he's calling you in the middle of the night with You're saying he's calling you in the middle of the night with a mental health crisis.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you for putting that into words. While you had already moved out and ostensibly distanced yourself from the relationship, and you said, absolutely, I'm carrying a child, I can't really be dealing with this stress, and I don't know what to tell you. And then he kept doing it, and then that's how you blocked him? Correct. Eventually, I blocked him.
Okay.
But during that time, when he was at his lowest point, I agreed to suspend, to pause. It's like, my job is on the line. And I said, okay, I'll pause it. And then a few months later, I resumed it, and it started up again, except it was much worse.
Because he was very stressed, and you decided to back off from the whole financial thing.
Correct. And just not talk to him at all.
Mm-hmm.
And when I resumed it a few months later, it was even worse. His reaction was worse still.
Reaction to what?
To my resuming it.
The financial part.
The first time.
Yeah, your attempt to get a financial settlement.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it was worse the second time. And at his lowest point, which, caused me quite a bit of distress, I agreed to verbally said, okay, I won't pursue it.
Yeah.
And we haven't signed anything yet. And I feel very manipulated into that decision.
Yeah.
It's very unfair to me.
Yeah.
The whole thing is unfair. Now that I have a little bit of distance and space, my hormones have recovered.
Mm-hmm.
It's I really, I'm very content where I am, of course, very, very, very blessed with my daughter. But the whole thing is a mess that I somehow got the worst end of.
Yeah.
So my question is I have two questions. How can I reconcile, in my head that I can pursue the legal matter and not feel so codependent about his mood or his reaction, which is not my responsibility.
Yeah.
Even though I care for him.
Yeah.
And really the second part is it's just that, that feeling how can someone who says that they love you spiral so much, and yet, that's the decision that he made to, end our family life.
Well, okay. I hear you. So I'm gonna be completely honest with you, and if I say anything that you feel is an unfair characterization, you'll tell me that you think it's unfair or incorrect. So, first of all, when you're saying how could someone who says they love you so much end your family life, I could definitely see his perspective that you were the one who ended the family life. I know that it doesn't feel like that to you, but I could definitely...
He says that as well.
Yeah, and I could see that. I could definitely see that. It's like, look, we were together for a long time. Everything was fine. There was an understanding. We were at a certain age in life where, it was understood. We're not looking to start new things. We're established. This is the family that we have. We got these two kids. Okay, so you're not the biological mom, but they're bonded to you. You're bonded to them. This is the story. We've got our nice little family. And then you come with this, from his perspective, I'm sure it's sort of like out of the blue, irrational desire. I must have my own biological child. And from his perspective, it's like you're being hell-bent. That's a little bit of a harsh word to use, but I'm feeling his energy right now. And I'm feeling it from his perspective, even though I have never.
But it didn't come out of nowhere, right?
No, I know, but I'm telling you his feeling. I'm telling you his experience. So right now, the facts are not so important. Yeah. This is an exercise in empathy. So I just want you to be open to his feeling of, where did this come from? Now, I know it didn't really come from nowhere, and I know that there were many conversations.
Yeah,
and
his reaction is very much mirrored by your words.
Because I'm feeling his experience right now. I'm feeling his experience. How am I feeling it, by the way? Am I psychic? No, I'm not psychic. Because I'm talking to you, and I guess I don't like to sound like a hippie, like energy and stuff like that. But if I'm hearing your story, I'm feeling your story, and he's got some of his story in your story. So I'm feeling it, okay? And I'm just telling you the feelings I'm getting. I've learned at this point, I'm not that old, but I'm kind of old. I'm 50. So at this point in my life, I've learned that, to trust my gut to a certain extent. That's why, for instance, before when I was like making stuff up and I was asking you, like, is that correct? My gut is pretty good, but it's not 100%. That's why I always ask for verification. So right now, I'm just feeling from his experience, he got totally blindsided. We had something nice, is he also in his 40s?
Yes.
Okay, so we're in our 40s.
Yes.
We're established. Okay, this is the family that God gave us. We have these 2 kids. Like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And then all of a sudden, I don't know where you got it from. You got this obsession, your maternal drive just took over, and I lost this woman that I thought I knew. I thought I built a life with. And then she sort of comes to me and tells me, I'm doing this IVF and there's really nothing you can do about it. And here I am weeping and crying as I'm helping her with her treatments, basically trying to say to her, why are you so out of control? Why are you hell-bent on this? Why does this have to happen? That's what he was feeling. Now, I'm not telling you objectively that that's fact. I'm just telling you that's how he felt. And since there's always value in understanding other people's feelings, I think there's always value in understanding other people's feelings. That's why I'm talking about it. In other words, you're a little bit baffled right now. I think you'll be a little bit less baffled if you could understand. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to agree with him.
No, I mean, I'm very empathetic to him, obviously, and I have a lot.
Empathetic or codependent? Because there's a difference.
Yeah.
Because
probably more codependent.
Codependent, meaning to say,
But that's how I feel. I feel like I gave up so much for his family.
Yeah.
And those kids, I love them like they're mine, truly. So it's not a reflection on them, but it's like he didn't hear me all those years. That's how I feel.
That's right. That's right.
You're right. He feels like what you're saying. Yeah, he didn't hear me.
He didn't hear you. And that's why. And can I tell you something, by the way? Just because this is so applicable to so many marriages and relationships. In your particular case, this is like a really high stakes issue because it basically comes down to bringing a child into the world. So like that's like the biggest deal there could be is a life. But there are so many examples of this in so many relationships where it could be about other things, even trivial things where, and I'm going to be sexist for a minute because I'm going to characterize this in a gender specific way. And I do believe that there are reasons why it's gender specific, where a woman will say, I literally told you 1,000 times. And the man will say, where the heck did this come from? I'm blindsided. I've said for a long time, men don't have marriage problems until they find out that they have marriage problems. So
I think you're right.
Yeah. So he was blindsided. Now, again, I'm not saying objective fact. I'm not here to arbitrate. I'm just talking about experiences, subjective experiences. So, yeah, I mean, he was devastated as far as he's concerned. He had a nice little life, and this obsession of yours, and I don't mean to denigrate it by calling it an obsession, but I'm sort of like connecting to his energy and saying, like, this obsession of yours took over and upended everything that you ever had. And now on top of it, he's saying to himself, and now on top of it, I got to pay you for the privilege. I got to pay you for the privilege. I bought a house. What? You were living rent free with, I don't, okay, now I just want to be careful.
I was not living rent free.
Were you paying?
I was.
Were you paying?
Yes, I was.
You were paying. How were you paying?
I sure was.
How was that? How was that set up?
It was like split all the way.
Meaning monthly bills, you were both paying half.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Everything.
Okay. Everything. So that the house is a mortgage.
Everything. Home repairs. Everything.
Utilities.
What was the question?
The house is a mortgage.
Everything.
The house is a mortgage. The home payments is a mortgage. Okay, fine.
Correct.
Okay, so you were splitting everything. What, you had like a joint account? And you both were working?
We funneled money into one account.
Okay.
Yes,
but you were both working, and at the end of the month, you were both 50-50 on all the bills.
You got it.
Okay. So there is some real substance to you saying that this was a 50-50 endeavor. And if he's keeping the house, which is, it kind of makes sense because the children are with him.
Absolutely. I wasn't debating that I would keep the house.
Yeah. But yeah, it does make sense that for however many years you were going 50-50. So you're not just asking for a payday because you live together. You're saying
No, there's some equity there.
There's equity. Yeah, there's legitimately equity. Okay. So, you have a legitimate expectation for some type of compensation. Just, be realistic about the fact how much stress that puts on him because again, this is his subjective reality, but from his perspective, everything was nice. You got obsessed with this idea of having a baby, and you're the one who turned everything upside down and caused our sweet little life to just fall apart. That's how he's feeling, okay? And then B, it's kind of hard to come up with that kind of liquidity. Like, yeah, you've got equity built up, but you built it up over a long period of time. Now, all of a sudden, he has to come up with a lump sum to compensate for that. It's like, that's real pressure. So from his perspective, he lost his love, and he has this financial pressure to suddenly come up with this lump sum. So, I could understand why he'd be really, really stressed. I'm not saying that your desire to be compensated isn't valid. I'm just saying,
Yes, but I carried this. I also was very stressed. I also had the same experience as him in the reverse. And I didn't call him with blame and manipulation. And, I'm not suggesting what you're saying is not correct because fine, I accept, I see it, but there's a different way to behave with someone. There's a different way to manage your life. Like it was so, the nonsense that came at me, really was just.
I know you're calling it the nonsense that came at you. I'm not trying to.
I don't know how else to call it. It was.
Okay,
it was awful, and I sat with him on the phone, and I cried with him. But the fact that he did it is already hard. The fact that he did it and I was pregnant was awful.
I know it's awful, but I want to explain something to you. Not to turn you into the bad guy, but rather so that you could be less confused, okay? Like, I want you to be less confused about... Look, I'm not defending the manipulation and the emotional blackmail and all that stuff that he whipped out on you. What I'm saying is I would like to give you a context within which it's a little bit less baffling for you. And that is, just please understand that although you spoke to him about the IVF thousands of times and gave him thousands of opportunities to offer an alternative, right? Which the primary alternative was your first choice, which was that he should have a child with you, and you not only you offered him that opportunity, you begged him for it. Is this all correct? What I'm saying?
Well,
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes.
You're nodding your head like yes. But I'm sitting here wondering whether I'm correct or not. So you have to say yes vociferously. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
So although you gave him millions of opportunities to do it differently, okay, from his perspective, he felt that he had a gun to his head. He had no choice, and this is what I want you to understand. That even though you told him what you were doing, even though you communicated clearly, the moment that you decided that you got to do what you got to do, and I don't know what words clicked in your head when you made that decision. Do you remember making that decision of, well, I guess I got to do what I got to do? Do you remember when you came to that point?
I do, and I told him.
Can you tell me about that moment when you said... Yeah. Tell me about it.
So it was summer. We were about to go to a cottage for a week. And I just spent, the whole summer making plans for the kids and taking them to birthday parties. And I just, honestly, I wanted to expand our family for so long. Really, it was. And with him, like you said, I really loved him. I wanted to have a child with him. And I looked up fertility stuff because it wasn't working for us naturally. And I saw that where I live, after the age of 45, they may not take you as a client, and they may not let you use your own eggs. And I was 43. And it was just sheer panic. I said, "Oh my God, like I'm going to run out of time."
Yeah.
And I remember one evening it was just us at home, and I told
at home
him,
or was this summer cottage?
And I told him just before we went to the cottage.
Mm-hmm.
The cottage was not great for us. It was lovely for the kids, but it was hard on us.
Mm-hmm.
It was towards the end of the summer. It was like late August. And I told him super gently, and I hope that you'll come with me. And he blanched, like the same click that went off in my head, the opposite, his shut down.
Yeah, he shut down.
Like I could just see like the blood rush from his body.
The blood rushed from his body. So you were feeling panic. I got to go. And he was feeling dread. I'm frozen. I can't move.
Yes. He's a freezer.
Yeah.
I'm a flight and he's a freeze.
That's right.
And
you flew. At breakneck speed.
I knew.
And the faster you went, the more frozen he became.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
That is correct.
It was a very...
So I want you to understand something.
For him, it was like a slow burn, and for me, it was
that
fast.
moment when you said, I got to go, I got to do it, I got to move. And he couldn't. He physically couldn't. He was paralyzed. At that moment... Mm-hmm. I want to be very gentle how I say this to you, but you were the one who decided to leave the relationship. Now, that doesn't mean that now you bear all of the fault and therefore you are not entitled to any type of equity in what you invested in over the years. I'm not saying it like that, but what I am saying is, you were saying at the beginning of the story, like, I don't get it. How could somebody, you're saying about your ex who says he loves you, how could he end it? Like, he didn't end it. You ended it.
Well, how come he didn't take my hand and come along
You know why. I mean, it's not deep. It's not complicated. He was frozen. And the same way you couldn't stop yourself from flying, he couldn't start himself out of his position of frozenness. You were both in your most primal mode. When things get super stressful, he's a freezer, you're a flyer. And you were both super stressed. He was stressed because he saw the amazing partner in life who became a mother figure to his children just flying out the door. And he was panic-stricken. And you were looking at 43 years old and never had a biological child of your own, and you were flying. And you just went two opposite ways. And at that point, there was really nothing that was going to be able to preserve this relationship. And he probably had a legitimate mental health crisis because of the shock of it and the grief. I'm not trying to guilt you. I mean, that doesn't mean it's now your responsibility.
No, he did.
He did, right. And I'm not guilting you. I'm not saying to you, you got to go back to him. I don't even think it's salvageable. I mean, I know it's not salvageable. You cannot have back what you had. That's over. That's done. That's gone. And especially now you have this baby, and you've got to raise the baby in the most stress-free environment. So you're going to, you're on your own for now. That's what it is. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. But, all I can tell you is, like I said before, there's a difference between empathy and codependency. So I don't want you to be codependent, but I do want you to be empathetic. So I don't want you to hurt yourself out of feelings of guilt, because that doesn't really benefit anybody. But I do want you to have a soft heart and to understand why this whole situation is so hurtful from his perspective, not just from your perspective.
So how do I, or can I pursue the legal stuff, but not have any contact with him? Yeah.
That's a question for a lawyer, really. No, really, it is. But, yeah, I mean, you can't have contact with him. It makes it personal, and it makes it much more painful, and it makes it much more tangled. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, problem with lawyers is they only have one setting. Kill, kill, kill. So, correct. Yeah, that's the problem with them. Like, they don't know how to, like, you have to find a lawyer that you tell, listen, I'm not trying to get this guy for everything I can get him for. I'm just trying to get my equity. Yeah, they're not really, yeah, I know. I don't know what to tell you about that.
They have one speed. It's not mean, but they're working on your behalf, just like his is working on his behalf, right? So,
yeah, by the time you're done, all the equity, you're going to spend 50% of that equity on lawyers' fees, and you're going to be stressed, and you're going to miss out on taking care of your baby. I don't know. I might even just walk away from it. I mean, it's crazy, but I would even think about just walking away from it.
Mm-hmm. Just for peace of mind.
Just for the peace of mind. I don't know. Look, I don't want to give financial advice or legal advice.
No. Of course.
Yeah. It's a sad story. It's a sad story, but you are where you are now, and especially because now you have this baby. It's pretty clear that
I knew that I couldn't. I would have resentment forever if I didn't try, to have her. Mm-hmm. It was like a life or death situation for me.
For you, yeah, right, exactly. It felt like life and death, and that's why, by the way, you went into your primal mode of flight, because it felt like life and death for you. And I just want you to understand, for the sake of compassion, again, that it felt like life and death for him. He felt like he was dying.
Yeah, it's hard though, right? Someone says, "Oh, you're the love of my life. I can't live without you," and then, well, apparently you can, right?
Well, you can live.
It's hard to digest that.
Yeah, you can live without anybody, but it is devastating. So he was heartbroken. He was shocked, heartbroken, devastated. He felt abandoned, and the more abandoned he felt, probably the more paralyzed he became.
Yes, I suspect that is.
Yeah. And it's a sad story, but you have this baby now, and that has to be your focus.
Yeah.
And your focus has to be on providing her with the most stress-free environment possible, especially you're doing this as a single parent, which is, you know how difficult that is. I mean, you're not a fool. You know it's extra difficult. So your number one priority, I don't know about anything else. I really don't. I can't advise you, and I won't advise you on, financial stuff. But what I will say to you is number one priority right now is creating a stress-free or low-stress environment for this baby. That has to be your number one priority in everything. That has to be the question you ask about everything. So any other decision you make in your life right now, the question is, will it bring less stress and more stability into my baby's life? Because that has to be the only factor right now, at least for the next 5-10 years, and perhaps for the next 20 years.
Yeah. That's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that perspective. This isn't the response I thought I was going to get, but truthfully, I think it's better.
What was the response you thought you were going to get?
Well, I thought that you would actually say to me, it's not about him, it's about you, and go there because I'm in therapy, and that's what therapy is like, right? Therapy is like, well, you're okay and he's okay, but you need to focus on you being okay. But you, to your point, to use your words, made me see things from his perspective in a way that didn't minimize what I went through. But I can see things, again, a little bit of time has passed.
Yeah.
With a little bit more clarity and some more probably empathy and now, without some of that codependence that was very deeply ingrained in me.
Yeah. Right.
And I felt responsible for him,
So you got...
And it's ironic because when you're in a relationship, you want to be responsible for the other person, right? Like it's, maybe not in that way, but it brought me great joy to be in a family with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a very big loss.
Very big loss for both of you and for the kids.
And for the kids, yeah.
But there's no turning back the clock, and now your priority has to be your baby.
The baby.
That's it. That's everything.
Yes, and she's wonderful.
So, okay, I'm glad that I surprised you. I'm glad that, it's always interesting to me when people tell me, Rabbi, that's not what I expected. Because in my mind, it's the most logical thing in the world because that's just how I think. And then people tell me, no, it's not what I'm used to hearing. But I'm glad that you were able to get some empathy.
You have a very different perspective.
Yeah, I'm a weirdo. I told you that from the beginning. Were you on in the beginning?
No, I like it.
Yeah. So now
actually, his eldest is neurodivergent, and he was the most lovely child.
So you know about different-minded individuals. Yeah.
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 So now you don't have to do psychedelics.
Well, thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah, the plant medicine you were going to do, you don't have to do it now. Are you listening to me? You don't have
me?
to. Yeah. You don't have to do it anymore because the psychedelics, you don't have to do it now. Because what it was going to do for you was allow you to leave your perspective and to experience your entire relationship from his perspective. And then you would have been left with, with clarity. But we did that in our conversation, and we didn't have to take any medicine. Yeah. And you're going to sleep on it, and you're going to wake up tomorrow and actually realize that you have a whole new appreciation for his perspective.
Yeah, I hope it gives me a sense of calm.
It'll give you clarity, and clarity will give you calmness. And, keep your heart soft. Be compassionate. Be empathetic, which is not the same as codependent. which we've said a few times already, meaning you don't have to be a martyr.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a martyr, but I mean, I could talk a little bit more about that, actually. Sometimes we conflate codependency with compassion when they're really opposites. The truth is we're codependents to avoid feeling compassion. Codependency is like any addiction. It's really an attempt to preserve control. So, when we martyr ourselves, why do we do that? Because we're under the illusion that that will force the other person into behaving reasonably. It's that bid for some semblance of predictability and control. And then, of course, when it doesn't work, we're profoundly indignant. That there's no betrayal like the feeling of the betrayed codependent who says, I martyred myself with the expectation that it would elicit this response, and you went and did what you wanted to do, even though I martyred myself, right? And then we get to be really indignant.
Yeah.
And then, comes the self-destructive entitlement. And we get to punish ourselves for having martyred ourselves. So what I'm saying is you don't have to do that. You don't have to make your life worse. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. But what you can do is try to see things from his perspective. You should pray for him. You should ask that God bring healing and peace to his life. Have a soft heart. Okay. Thanks for talking.
Rabbi. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Take care of your baby.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I will. Shabbat shalom.
Yeah. Shabbat shalom. Be well. Okay. All right. Wow. That was real. That was real. That's a real story. Okay. Life is interesting. Hashem is an author. And you can't make this stuff up. That's really an amazing story. Okay. I hope she has some serenity, some degree of peace from our conversation. Hey, this is Shais Taub. You were just watching a clip from this class. If you want to get the full context, the full class that this clip that you just watched was from, you watch right here. Click right here.